everybody. Welcome to InPsightRadio. I am your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. Hi! Happy week! Okay, so today I am recording this podcast on February 27th, and tomorrow on February 28th, 2019, I turn 50 years old. And I am feeling an incredible wave of energy starting yesterday that is just phenomenal. So if I'm ping-ponging off the walls a little extra in today's podcast, I'd like to say I apologize, but heck, I don't apologize. I tell you what, gang, I wish you were all going to be here for this 50th birthday bash I'm throwing. Why do I feel all this energy coming in? Well, this is not what our podcast is about today, but I just wanted to open the show with letting you all know that if you are cresting into 50, if you're coming up on 50, especially if you are a female coming up on 50, listen, you are going to love this, okay? I posted on Instagram and on Facebook and my Twitter, all of my social media accounts. I posted this photo of me without a stitch of makeup on. I had just gotten up. My hair is all jacked up from sleeping and, your morning Bigfoot look that we all get. And I tell you, I was so excited to post that picture because I can feel the energy changing coming into this decade. Now, I understand that, being 50, it's a number, blah, blah, blah. Yet, gang, from the perspective of spiritual physics, it's a lot more than just a number, it really is. It's about the evolution of our spiritual development. And we don't tend to understand the evolution of our spiritual development because we're living our lives like weirdo tsetse flies down here who have an entire lifespan of maybe, 85 to 100 years if we're lucky, 105 if we're eating our veggies. So when we look at this evolution of wisdom, it's phenomenal to actually feel it come just washing in. It is huge. And so, ladies, a lot of us get hammered with these unbelievably dysfunctional messages from the time we're little girls. Now, I believe our time frame now, the time frame of the feminine, the #MeToo time frame, is beginning to flush a lot of these rotten messages down the toilet. And I'm personally really excited about that. However, ladies, for most of us that came from what I like to call the old world, the 20th century, there was such a ridiculous imprinting that after you've hit basically 30, you really don't have a whole lot to offer the world. And fellas, I am sure that you guys have had the same weird youth is king, weirdo virility, just bizarre messages also. Now, being a gal, I can only speak from the female perspective here. Yet it's fascinating how much time we spend as women freaking out about, getting older. And it's not something we necessarily consciously do. So guys, if you're listening to this, we're not sitting here going, oh my God, I'm going to turn 50 and turn into a pillar of salt and blow away like a dust cloud and like a bad episode of The Mummy. And we're not consciously doing that. Yet when you have all of these messages that are prevalent, that especially as a female, that you once your skin starts sagging, you're going to be out the window. And this was really big in the 80s and 90s. And thank God that was 30, 40 years ago, which is a long time, right? Jeez, wow, whoa. I'm 50. I can kick. That's what I've been feeling like, is that Molly Shannon character. I'm not afraid to tell my age. Oh, man. But it's really true. We have these. I love that character. It's so weird. We have these weird kinks as women that we literally get told that we are afraid that once we start to get old, our partners won't love us anymore, or once we show wrinkles, then we're not going to be relevant. And this goes back for generations. And ladies, the whole ageism issue really became popular around television, when TV commercials could get out there and say, well, you don't want yourself looking ugly and old and you need to keep yourself young for him and all this weird crap. That came about during the sensationalization of TV and of television commercials, right? Because they could sell product to us ladies if we freaked out. And as I talk about on this podcast all the time, shame consciousness, fear consciousness, limitation consciousness, these were all heavy currency for control in the latter part of the divine masculine, which became the imbalanced patriarchal. These were all mechanisms of control and still are through the consumerist nation of the United States that loves to sell people stuff if we're freaked out. Okay. So if you think about this, it makes a lot of sense, ladies, that during especially the not as much in the 1940s, but it really started coming out in the 50s, that if you weren't beautiful and young and youthful and stayed youthful a little bit in the 40s, but it really went crazy in the 50s and on up, and then it got just nuts by the time we went to the 70s. Not only were we supposed to stay young forever and have superhuman android AI-like skin for eternity, but we were also in the 70s supposed to weigh 80 pounds. Women, I'm surprised we're freaking alive on the planet. Okay? Between all of the whacked out diet drugs, between the diet fads, between needing to weigh as much as, our whole skeleton, and here we're supposed to have energy and have a ton of sex and be great humans and be able to raise children and be fertile, by the way. Make sure you're fertile at 80 pounds because we're not really sure how to pull that one off, but you better figure it out because you can't make him unhappy. Literally, this is what we've been living under, and it just is so asinine. And guys, I'm not suggesting that you all haven't had ridiculous sociological trips laid on you, because guess what, fellas? You really have. And in a ton of ways, one of these days when we're through #MeToo, which needs to happen. Quite honestly, it needs to happen. We ladies have put up with a bunch of weird crap that just needs to go away. However, as women do, once we blow and once we get it all out there, we just expect everything to come together and tidy up and we move on. And once we do that, we can start to address some of the jacked up issues that guys have been subjected to. And we're just starting that. However, when we're talking about ageism, this really has hit women in a particular way that's pretty damaging. So at 50 years old, I'm sitting here looking in the mirror saying, you know what, I can notice stuff, gang. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. It's not like I don't notice I'm changing. I was looking in the mirror the other day and I thought, God, I feel this incredible sense of peace and this amazing sense of joy. And my inner person is just, I just have it together. But who the hell took one of the vertebrae out of my neck? Why is my neck getting shorter? And God, I love my sense of inner stability, yet why is my face getting flat? Who the hell took my cheekbones? Could the person who took my cheekbones and my vertebrae please give me a call, because with this sense of peace, I would like that back, But wait, no, Danielle, come on now. That's pretty shallow. I mean, I actually am liberated from whether people like me or not. I'm liberated from all of these issues of, am I doing enough for the world? And am I going to be the right kind of woman? I'm liberated from all of that. Why the heck are my hips getting wider? What is up with my pants size? God! So, I mean, there's a few trade-offs there. And ladies, when you hit this age, I remember my mom saying, your bones shift. And I thought that was an analogy for, hey, I'm 50 and I like to eat more donuts. No, your freaking bones shift like continents on the earth. Right? And I love the way my body looks, and I have never been in better physical shape in my entire life. That's honest to God truth. Thank God. And I'm giving a nod to my wife who owns a fitness facility and has taught me how to eat properly, et cetera, and so on. Yet your bones do shift, gang. It's just, ladies, your bones shift. It's part of the thing. So amidst all these personal changes, why am I telling you this? Because we notice them so acutely as women. We freak out. And about halfway through 49, I was starting to kind of wig about some of this stuff. And then all of a sudden, I was just gifted with this wash of inner peace and strength And so here's what I want to tell my sisters after such a big buildup, and my fellas out there who have partners who are women who are hitting this age. This is a gift. It is phenomenal. The angels who walk with the world talk about people who hit 60 and above, especially women, as being in the third phase of life and they're most powerful. I mean, wow. Okay? So this is the ramp up for the most powerful place we're ever going to be, ladies. And here's the other thing. Don't freak out about all of these weird ideas that once you hit 50, nobody's going to hire you. Once you hit 50, you look like crap. Hey, listen, I have a few extra, tributaries on the river, on the face. I have a few extra little cracks in the china here. Yet, by God, I'm holding together pretty good, girls. And I don't do anything special. I eat well and I exercise. And I don't not drink and you know what I mean? I live a normal life. And I have my old lady face cream I slather on at night, whatever. Yet I haven't chosen to get any work done on my face or whatever. And that's cool. If you're somebody who's gotten work done, rock on, man. You know what? It's your body. You do whatever the heck you want. It's not a judgment. I'm simply saying to use myself as an example here. 50 is not going to kill you. And I really wish that I would have understood how liberating this was going to feel in my 20s and 30s. My 40s were the best decade ever, and the 50s, I can't even imagine what they're going to be like. So girls, don't freak out that when you get older, that he or she isn't going to love you anymore. That is BS. Because here's another thing that happens when you hit 50, and I'm 50 tomorrow. I'm 50. Another cool thing that happens is the spiritual changes that are going on within you are so profound that you just get like this massive intravenous injection of lighten up. And I don't know about you ladies, but that is fabulous. Now, I have a friend of mine who's in the medical profession, and my friend says, well, of course you lighten up a little bit because you're losing, your estrogen, your progesterone, everything's kind of throttling back. So estrogen causes us to think everything's really a great big deal. And maybe that's part of it. Well, hey, rock on. Better living through natural chemistry, whatever. However, I think for me personally, this is about consciousness. So ladies, this is not the end of the world. In fact, it's the beginning of your world. And fellas, if you have a gal who's 50 and up, and I don't mean to overshare and gross everybody out here, because I know for many of you, I'm pretty much 2 clicks off a unicorn. Yet I'm sure for other people, wink, wink, sex when you hit 50 all of a sudden is unbelievable. So here's the thing, people. Embrace this section of your life. And ladies, for my younger listeners out there, you rock that youth. You get out there and stick your nose in everything and roll around in everything and have a hell of a good time. Yet understand that as you get older, that you are going to be coming into a place of not only having done everything that you really wanted to ever do, but coming into your place where you love yourself so much, you're just not even going to know what to do. And you love yourself so much that you're able to love everybody else in a way that is profound and deep and meaningful and not full of all those insecurities, ladies, that we get stuck with. Because we think that, oh God, I have a wrinkle. Oh no, I went up a pant size. All we need to do is keep ourselves as healthy as we can for who we are. That is literally what the deal is, gang. So as I roll into 50, I bring spiritual gifts to all of you and that I'm receiving here that are just based in wisdom, in temperance, in liberation, in self-love, in fearlessness, and in absolute humility and gratitude to my younger self for taking one for the collective Danielle team here. And I'm so proud of myself for living through my 20s. Oh my God. Way to go, sister. Way to not run it off the rails. All right, so I just wanted to open the show with the power of transcendence and what can come about as we gracefully allow ourselves to spiritually grow and allow our flesh and our bodies to absorb these incredible messages and these incredible new identities that we're bringing into the world. And fellas, like I said, I know you have your own section of challenges too. So take that to heart. Guys in their 50s and 60s are the best. They are the best. I love hanging out with you guys. So just know that. So as we wear on into our new world, we have some interesting new world issues that I didn't have to worry about in my 40s and 30s and 20s. And one of those greatest issues is some really massive, creepy, Orwellian Twilight Zone. Is this actually happening on the planet of Earth? Discussion about the 5G network that they're putting in and wanting to put in and wanting to launch 20,000 relay satellites into the sky to beam all over the place. The 5G network. Now, you might have been hearing about the dreaded 5G network. And then you'll hear people come right out after there's a health warning. And those people will come out and say, oh, this is just sensationalization. There's nothing to worry about. This is fake news. It's not fake news. Okay, the 5G network is flat out dangerous. And our government is sponsoring huge moves through Verizon and other companies to place high-density, high-broadcast 5G wave towers right next to schools, next to old folks' homes, everywhere. And again, did I mention 20,000 satellites being launched into space? And the United States is really pushing for this, as is China. Those are the two big countries, of course, that are pushing for our 5G. Now, if you've never heard of why the 5G network is dangerous, or you think it's conspiracy, or you think this is like chemtrails, maybe it's true, maybe it's not true. Gang, this is flat up, frickin' 100% cut and dried true, okay? They have studies coming out of Europe. They have studies coming out of the University of Chicago. You can go on pubmed.gov, which is a peer-reviewed scientific medical website, and go read about how absolutely rotten 5G these millimeter waves are for you. And we're going to talk about why and what you can do about it. However, I will tell you that anybody who wants to tell you that the 5G network is not dangerous, please educate them, because it's horrifically dangerous. And we are getting ready to flip the switch on this all over this country to try to beat China to the punch. Because whoever owns this 5G owns, well, the world military strategy. So we're going to get to that. So what is the 5G network? Obviously, 5G is an oscillation rate. It means that you can literally download stuff to your computer, your devices through the air, hundreds of times faster, not just a little faster, hundreds of times faster than 4G, okay? So literally, it's like broadcast television. Things are just coming right in. There's no delay. There's no buffer time. Everything is instantaneous. Sounds great, right? Well, the problem with this is that we have been noticing over especially the last 5 to 8 years, EMF poisoning in our atmosphere. And I talk about that on the podcast. I used to notice it through my psychic gifts, my spiritual gifts, because I have an EMF sensitivity, which technically makes me a psychic or an angelic channel or a medium. I pick up these just tiny, minute variances in the electromagnetic field, and then I'm able to associate communication or messages with the variances. Okay, so that's like a broad brushstroke of how these psychic abilities work, for me anyway. And over the years, especially the last 5 years, with 4G coming in, man, I have noticed that I've been more scattered. I've noticed that it's been harder to concentrate. My wife has had more headaches. She's a huge empath. And I suppose that anybody could say, well, girl, over the last 5 years, you could be hitting perimenopause. And of course, your brain just fritzes out like a dead old robot, Danger Will Robinson, as you get into, perimenopause. Gang, this isn't perimenopause. I'm not perimenopausal. Okay. So this is an effect of the EMF saturation on the electromagnetic organ called the brain. And I talk about this a lot on our podcast because my job, again, as many people see me as a soothing relayer of angelic messages, I think that's so awesome. Yet my job is technically alarm clock, not lullaby, okay? So here's the deal. These EMF frequencies that are encapsulated in 5G, you know where they came from? You know how they know they even exist? Do you think it was Verizon with a big tower and a great big old dial attached to the tower saying, well, we're going to start at 2G. Now we're going to turn the dial up. There's a 3 here. So we're going to click the dial. Oh, look, it's 3G. And my YouTube is playing a little faster. Okay, I'm going to reach to the dial and there's a number 4 here. So we're just going to click it. Oh, look, we're on 4G. Now I can download an HG movie in a nanosecond. Yeah, there's no tower with a dial, okay? We get these technologies from the military. And 5G technology has been around forever. And you'll never guess where 5G was used. The 5G EMF frequency was used for crowd control. It was literally put into crowd control weapons, okay? Now, that's the foundation of the 5G frequency. Obviously, the 5G frequency that's going to be coming out of the Verizon cell towers or whatever, that's not, specifically the crowd control weapon. However, it is built on the platform of the crowd control weapon, okay? And it's really, 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 really important to understand the actual medical facts, the historical facts here, because there's all kinds of research out that show and literally are documents how these frequencies utilized in the crowd control weapons, which will, by the way, impact our body physically. It impacts our biology. It's not just like, oh, I'm getting a weird feeling that I need to buy more eggs at the grocery store. I mean, these millimeter waves affect our physical bodies, okay? And what's creepy is that there have been over 2,000 peer-reviewed studies, you guys, 2,000 about this 5G being bad for you. And literally, thousands of scientists have been weighing in on this and raising their hands and saying this is literally the worst idea in the history of the world, because it is. And, we have to ask, why is the entertainment and why has the communication industry really been given free rein to implement this technology without testing it on human beings? Well, because the answer is they kind of already have tested it on human beings, and they're realizing that it won't kill us, but it's not good for us. But why would they do it then? Why? It's not about YouTube. Because with this mass push to put up the thousands of 5G towers, thousands and thousands of them, along with I'm going to say it again, 20,000 5G beaming satellites into the frickin' sky, okay? Why so many? Well, because our military drones, gang, are all working on wireless, heavily dense, massive broadband internet signals. And those military drones are flying all over the world, spying on everybody. They're dropping bombs on people. And it's been hard to try and communicate with those military drones with our current 4G networks. They require a 5G system in order to run, which is why the United States government is going, sure, hey, private sector, why don't you go ahead and put up all of these cell phone towers? You pay for it. We'll okay it. And then our military can use it. Are we cool? And of course, all the cell phone companies are like, heck yeah, let's do it, because we're going to sell more $1,200 iPhones. We're going to sell more devices because people are going to actually have an opportunity to get out there and really work the system with our money and buy more stuff, because everybody's going to be like, oh my God, it's so fast. Yeah. We are literally giving away chunks of our biology, our brain, our eyes, our skin, our nervous system to the ability of the United States military to basically, own the 5G frequency to run all their drones. Now, we're trying to get this up before China because China's trying to do the same thing. And China just doesn't flat care if it kills its people. I mean, China has one of the worst pollution problems, clean water problems. China is not sitting there going, oh my gosh, how do we save our citizens? China is censoring their citizens. And they're just kind of running their government over there. And I'm not anti-China at all. It's just honestly the truth. So, the people in China are not really the top concern. Efficiency in country and government is the top concern in China. So they're really pushing for this particular technology to be owning it. Okay. So, it's interesting because here in the United States, I talk a lot about how our obsessive sociopathic consumerism is eating our lunch over here. And I talk about that so we can move our consciousness into a place where we can start to say, God, maybe I don't need the newest iPhone, or maybe I don't need Wi-Fi in my house. Did you know that your Wi-Fi, your internet is going to run like lightning if you just plug it in to the frickin' wall? Okay? We lose half of our Wi-Fi signal through the air. So if you're paying for 60 megabytes per second, you're only actually getting 30 megabytes per second max as it's beaming through the air. The only time you get that pure 60 megabytes per second is if you plug it in to the wall or to the router, okay? So we can have really fast internet if we just frickin' plug it into the router and run a few cable. Oh, God forbid we see a cable on the carpet. It might be 1976. Oh, no. We have super fast internet, gang. Okay, we do. We just simply need to plug it into the wall or plug it into the router and run some cables. Now, this 5G issue is looking pretty imminent. It's looking pretty imminent that, with the Trump administration saying, sure, do whatever you want, and deregulating the EPA. And I mean, it's insane. Money is running it right now. So I'm not here to fearmonger. I'm here to tell you, hey, guess what? This is actually what's going on. So we can prepare for it and do something differently in our own homes, okay? And it's interesting because different countries have already basically outlawed Wi-Fi in their countries because it's bad for you. It's bad for the cells. And when they put these high-density towers around nursery schools, around primary schools, around assisted living or old folks' homes, what we see is a massive impact on the physicality of the people who live around these towers. So this isn't something new. This has been going on for a long flipping time, okay? It causes cancer. They've linked cancer to people living next to cell phone towers. They have linked autism to the EMF poisoning out there. They have linked all kinds of health issues. I want to tell you, I'm here to tell you right now on this program that even though there is no documentation yet for this, but you keep your eyes open, people, it's coming. Fibromyalgia is a condition brought on to empaths by a significant raise of EMF poisoning in the air because we're sucking in this millimetre radiation and it's inflaming the nerve endings and it's burning. It causes a burning sensation on the skin. Did you know that that's one of the big issues with 5G is a constant feeling of burning on the skin? So what? We're going to put up all these 5G towers and then the pharmaceutical companies are going to make bank as we treat the mystery illness called fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia, first of all, I've never met an empath who let me rephrase this. I've never met a person with fibromyalgia who is not an empath, okay? So fibromyalgia comes about when the system is inundated with too much energy or electromagnetic energy that the body, through its electromagnetic relay system known as the nerves, can't field. So it's like pushing too much water through a PVC pipe, right? I mean, it's breaking every joint that the pipe has. So here we're pushing all of this EMF radiation through the air all the time to our devices, to our cell phones. And it's just nasty. And the United States is the worst, about it. So when you have all these other countries around the world that have banned Wi-Fi, we're sticking in the most 5G towers that we possibly can. I mean, it seems unethical for corporations who control this market to keep pumping this junk out there to control and manufacture these services. However, the government's letting them, okay? And as we know, the sociopathic consumer machine doesn't care about human beings. It's literally a machine that just cranks out stuff and draws in money. It is creepy. So the sad part is that our government agencies have failed to address what the heck is happening here, because a lot of those people in those agencies are getting paid off with communication lobbyists. I mean, it's so wrong, okay? So I really want to spell this out for you today, gang, so you understand that this is actually really a problem. Because what's sad here is that unless we see something on NBC Nightly News, or for some of my listeners, Fox News or MSNBC or wherever you get your news, we don't think, well, quite frankly, we don't think it's real. And I'll tell you what's wrong about that is that our news is now, our mainstream media is so hyper-controlled by financial interests that we have very few journalists out there who crack through that to try to get the actual news to us. And so, I mean, our local news is better than the main network news because at least they're reporting on things, and the big financial players aren't paying attention to Jane Doe doing the news up there in Rapplejay, Montana. They're paying attention to Rachel Maddow and everybody else who has a global ear. So here's what's killing me about this is that there have been thousands of peer-reviewed papers calling for the government to address this 5G issue for years. This just didn't come up last year. Okay, this has been happening as the communication companies have reached over to their fictitious dial on their one tower once they saw a 5 and they're going to click it up there. There have been studies done on this for years. You know, this kind of technology, and many of us have this kind of technology in our homes. We have smart homes. Everything's running it. It actually, gang, it's not just metaphysical woo-woo stuff, okay? It actually does interact with our skin and our eyes, okay? It's physical. It interacts with our brain. And thank God these findings were made public through an Israeli research studies. And they were presented at an international conference on the subject of 5G stuff. This was last year's news, okay? And what I find fascinating about this is that Dr. Ben Ishai of the Department of Physics at Hebrew University went through how human sweat ducts, okay, this is so fascinating, act like a number of helical antennas, basically just antennas, okay? Human sweat ducts act like antennas when exposed to the wavelengths that are put out by devices that employ 5G technology. All of a sudden, the human body, which you know, gang, on this podcast, I'm always talking about how the human body, we're basically a bag of salt water. And what is salt water? It's the biggest electromagnetic conductive device that we have on the planet, besides things like gold and whatnot. Salt water is even more effective. So we have the same salinity as the ocean, nearly, in our body. And we are walking around with our sweat ducts acting as antenna, and we think of all your sweat ducts that you have, sucking in EMF from the atmosphere that is causing cancer, autism, neurological disorders, blindness. I mean, do I need to go on? Are you getting the picture that this is just not some passing weird little phase like I don't know, like the cabbage diet? This is an actual thing, okay? And the reason I'm going on about it is because we need to educate ourselves not only about what this particular harm is, because I'll tell you, our government's not looking out for us. Our communication companies are not looking out for us. Other countries in Europe are looking at the United States like, what the hell is wrong with all you ketchup-eating weirdos over there? I mean, has your saturated diet of corn syrup turned you into automaton, money-cranking zombies over there? What is wrong with you people? Yet here we sit in the USA, munching our fries, dipped in ketchup, which, by the way, unless you're eating organic ketchup, is full of corn syrup. And we're downloading our Netflix and we're looking at the rest of the world going, we're good. What's your problem? We're not good. We're not good, USA. We're not even close to good. Now, for those of you that follow the work that I put out back in 2015 and 16, I was talking about massive issues with EMF poisoning that we were going to be looking into right about now, 2019 through 2025. So, yay us! Here we are. Apparently, we did not make any changes in that upcoming timeline. And I'll tell you something, as a psychic, I get thrilled when certain things that I see don't happen. You know, like global disasters and our entire ionosphere being shot the hell full of 5G thanks to 20,000 floaty satellites that are low-hanging. I mean, I love being, quote, wrong, end quote, about all that stuff. I would love it. You know what? There's stuff you're wrong about. There's timelines that shift. You have your haters. God knows I've got some fascinating YouTube videos out there that I didn't do, that people actually have made up with me in them, talking about how I'm the worst psychic ever because this prediction didn't happen or whatever. And honestly, with the exception of a few, I just laugh at that. I'm like, wow, man, how much time do you have on your hands to make that video? That took a lot of work, dude. Wow. But what cracks me up is that there are things I really want to be wrong about. And when they don't happen, when we don't have global catastrophes that I see coming, I reach around and pat everybody on the back and say, way to go, humanity. Because the reason I put out these predictions, the reason I talk about this stuff, okay, is not to make myself look like some incredible, crazy rock star who has some superpower that can see into the future and, oh, aren't I super cool like somebody on a Marvel movie. I put this stuff out there so we can make course corrections. That's the point of it, all right? And to educate people on what's going on, because right now we are still shaking off of our boots a little dirt from the old world, and currently it's called our federal government. So that's just the way it goes. And I know I have a lot of very progressive friends who get really angry when I say things like that. I mean, just madder than a March hare. And they're like, how can you say that? We've got all these great Democrats and progressives in there. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is getting in there to change things. And look, I didn't say all the people in the federal government were hideous sociopaths. I said the government as a consciousness, and make no mistake, the government is a consciousness, has a long way to go in order to dig itself out of the old world sociopathic consumerism. That's the truth. I mean, it's going to take a wall of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes coming in over a number of congressional sessions and years to turn the boat around. And is it possible? Absolutely. Is it probable? I got 7 out of 9 timelines saying absolutely it's going to happen. And even our progressive, not just our progressive, even our conservative folks coming in are going to be abandoning the sociopathic bow to the almighty dollar model. And some of these folks, whether they're conservative or progressive, are not doing it because it's, quote, the right thing to do, end quote. They're doing it because they need to get into office, and the human consciousness in the United States overall, outside of our corn syrup haze, overall is going, wait a minute, something's kind of off here. I think we need to make an adjustment. So overall, our politicians are reflecting that modality. Now, of course, we're going to have our pockets of people still in fear and denial, and that's part of our human experience. However, gang, when we're talking about the 5G issues, being in denial is just not a good idea. I mean, if there are people out there who live in a flat world and we never went to the moon and 5G won't hurt us, and God, more power to people who literally are able to create that world for themselves. And we do talk about the quantum field quite a bit on this podcast. And who knows? Maybe those folks are going to not be harmed by the corn syrup. They're not going to be touched by the 5G. Nothing is going to touch them because they literally have adhered to a completely different reality. And I got to tell you, according to spiritual physics, if somebody actually adheres with every cell in their body to the fact that this is my reality, they can do what we call transcend what we consider our third dimension. So perhaps those folks are onto something. Yet, because I'm wired the way I am, because I have this EMF sensitivity, because now we've got this incredible study coming out of, Israel, from the Department of Physics, from Dr. Ben Ishai, talking about, literally talking about how our sweat ducts act like antenna, okay? I don't think it's just going to be me picking all this up. I just don't. Now, the sad part is these technologies have been rolling out. They're already rolling out in spite of the fact that our scientific community, over 2,000 of these studies, everybody's raising their hands saying this is a terrible idea. Honestly, more research, more very qualitative and quantitative research should have been done on the effects of human health, except for the fact that the military already has this data. So it's not mainstream research, yet the military already knows what this stuff does because they use the basis of the 5G wavelength, again, were used in crowd control devices that burn skin and make it hard to see because our optic nerve gets overloaded. So they know, they just don't care. This is the train wreck of the energies in the imbalanced portion of the divine masculine, in the patriarchal. This is the imbalanced masculine energy hitting the wall of the feminine time frame. Because there would have been a time, this would have rolled out 10 years ago, and the energy around it would have been, oh God, it's really bad for us, but what else is new? All in the name of conquest and technology, because we were still steeping like an old rusty tea bag in that old patriarchal, well, no matter, we're going to sacrifice it all for conquest modality. However, now that we're square in the feminine time frame, this is sitting like a lead balloon filled with cow poo in the middle of a church. Okay? This just isn't flying, and it's stinking up the room. So everybody's looking at this going, can we not try to push an energy signature from the old imbalanced portion of the patriarchal that mistook conquest and domination as extension of growth and power? Could we not go there in the feminine time frame? But oh no, we're going there. Hang on to your pants. Listen to this. Dr. Deborah Lee Davis, founding director of the Board of Environmental Studies and Toxicology of the U.S. National Research Council, okay, the National Academy of Sciences, founding director of the Center for Environmental Oncology, University of Pittsburgh Cancer Institute, and president of the Environmental Health Trust. Okay, this Deborah Lee Davis is that person to all those organizations. Okay, Deborah Lee Davis stated, here we go. If you are one of the millions who seek faster downloads of movies, games, and virtual pornography, a solution is at hand. That is, if you do not mind volunteering your living body in a giant uncontrolled experiment on the human population. At this moment, residents of the Washington, D.C. region, like those of 100 Chinese cities, are about to be living within a vast experimental millimetre wave network to which they have not consented, all courtesy of the American taxpayers. Now, this is not pretend, it's not fake news, it's not hypothetical news, it's not catastrophe news, it's not, oh my gosh, aliens are abducting rabbits and making human hybrid at National Enquirer news. This is actually going on. And I do find it a bit spiritually ironic that they are launching it in Washington, D.C. first. Of course they are, because of the Pentagon, because we need to make sure that we are running all of our military drones and our military equipment faster than anybody else, because while we kill our human populations, we'll be the best. America. Okay. Moving on. Davis proposed that the Trump administration, could actually provide funds and research and training, get this, you guys, by implementing a 2 cents per month fee on all wireless devices. And that goes for manufacturers and network providers. And the training and research in bioelectromagnetics, including the evaluations of new technologies, is absolutely essential before universal deployment, says Dr. Devra Lee Davis. And again, Dr. Devra Lee Davis is the founding director of the Board of Environmental Studies and Toxicology of the U.S. National Research Council, the National Academy of Sciences, founding director of the Center for Environmental Oncology, University of Pittsburgh Cancer Institute, and president of the Environmental Health Trust. So this is not just somebody getting out there going, I don't like 5G. We shouldn't have it. I want to go back to a hamster in a wheel that runs my light bulb because it makes me feel colloquial. Okay, are we getting the scope, gang? Now, U.S., Russian, and the Chinese defense agencies, they've been active in developing weapons that, like I was talking about, that rely on the capability of this EMF technology to literally, as I was saying earlier, it creates burning sensations on the skin, and they do it for crowd control. And it's important to note here that the waves, that these 5G waves, okay, they're millimeter waves. And these same waves are also used by the U.S. Army in crowd dispersal guns. Are you ready for this? They're called active denial systems. Isn't that lovely? We're going to fry your skin with millimeter radiation. We're going to call it an active denial. Actually, the United States military is extremely creative in how, and generally just so smooth in how they discuss their giant weapons that are terrifying. I think that's fascinating. I swear there's a bunch of right-brained people who work for the military. They're like, hey, what are we going to call this thing that actually beams millimeter radiation into the pores of people's skin so it burns them and repels them from coming forward? Should we call it the skin fryer? Let's call it the deep fat fry, the United States sizzle. That'll kick butt. And then here comes the right-brained folks in the military going, gang, that's really harsh, and I think you're going to scare people. I think active denial system, it just says, you're actively participating in doing something you shouldn't, and we're just going to deny you that behavior, and then we'll give them a banana. So, yeah, this is crazy, right? So, honestly, what can we do about this? Because it's like, oh my God, 5G is going to fry our brains, and we're all going to be living like zombies and drooling. Well, there are things we can do, gang. You could not use the 5G tech. I know. Think about for 1 nanosecond the freak out you had about that. It's like, what do you mean? About my cell phone? Oh my God. Because our brains are now patterning to be addicted to the instant response of technology. Our brains are patterning to have an automatic response. And I did a podcast at one time about how our children, when they were little, we limited my daughter's access to technology because these children just absolutely positively could not handle having the tech taken away from them because their brains started to addict to the anticipatable insty movement of a video game. And literally there's tons and tons of studies done. Again, go to pubmed.gov. It's amazing what reading can do for us, Go to pubmed.gov because what I've been talking about psychically for years is the fact that we have a giant spiritual experiment with our tech. And we can use our tech to reach one another. That's what we're doing right now, right? Yet we can also see that becoming addicted or reliant or giving away our personal power or directives or ungrounding from the earth through the tech and using the tech as an escapism mechanism then literally rewires our brains. So you can go in and you can check all of this out. And you know what's so weird for me as a psychic is somebody who's been seeing this coming and then being so bummed out when it actually hits our timelines. I mean, I really was hoping, and with so many of us squawking about this, that there might have been maybe some ripple effect made, but it doesn't seem to have done much good except maybe to educate all of us on what the heck is going on. So we could not use the 5G technology, honestly. Nothing says you must use 5G, okay? Again, why don't we get wired connections in our homes? And this is literally what my house is going to be going to. We already live in the country, and our internet service out here, I can't even say it's so slow. It's 7 megabytes per second. okay? Because they just don't have the infrastructure out here in the country for it. Now, in Bozeman, where I live, we live in Gallatin Gateway, which is on the outside of Bozeman, Montana. In Bozeman, it's a big tech center, and there's a lot of people from larger cities who have moved here. So you can move into Bozeman and you can get fiber optic internet. But the minute you beam the frickin' fiber optic internet through the air, you lose half the signal. And we're just obsessed with wireless. It's so weird. We don't need it, gang. But anyway, so we could just say no to the 5G technology. We could get a wired connection for our homes, which again can I just remind everybody, is way faster than wireless. We can unplug our devices that are constantly sending and receiving these EMF waves, especially at night. And I've done podcasts about that because that interferes with the crown chakra. It interferes with the third eye, the heart chakra, the chakras in our hands. Our entire chi system, our electromagnetic system is disturbed by having our cell phones right next to our bed at night. And you could put it on airplane mode so it doesn't send and receive, which is helpful. Honestly, if you exercise, it's going to help move the chi of the body, which helps move your own electromagnetic relay so that you're kicking out through the sweat glands. You're kicking out all the EMF that's trying to be sucked in, for lack of a better way to put it, because the liquid in those sweat glands is what literally becomes the antenna or the conduit. All right. So I exercise at least 3 times a week, and I lift weights, not a ton. We're talking 5 to 15 pounds here. But I do all of this to keep my body flushed out because I'm sucking up so much EMF on a regular basis just from my work, through assisting people with angelic messages and reading all these impulses and timelines coming in on the quantum field from the future. I got to make sure that the wash rag is wrung out. All right. So we can work out. That's going to help. And, eating healthy helps. The brain struggles, gang, when we try to put crap into it, which is why I'm always begging the corn syrup gong. You guys are going to get so sick of it. Yet I honest to God, hope I almost make you just a tiny bit phobic of corn syrup because it's so freaking bad for you. And it's like the 5G of the prefrontal cortex. It just shuts everything down in terms of being able to not only have cellular communication in the body, but also brain communication. That's just bad stuff. So we can also keep our immune system up because 5G affecting the body, any millimeter radiation contamination is going to affect the body if our immune system is weak. The weaker it is, the worse we're going to get hammered on, okay? So honestly, keeping our immune system just in tip-top shape is going to be a big part of this also. So if you look at the mind-body-spirit connection that I've been talking about, and many other people in my field, gang, I'm not the only person banging this gong, honestly. Many other people in my field have been on this same quest to talk about what we can do to insulate ourselves from things like dirty water, 5G, how we can tap in the quantum field. This is all really important stuff because if we do not participate with the 5G, then it doesn't sell. Then they're going to be more inspired to take it down. Now, the worst part about this is that we have a huge military push right now to make sure that all of these particular pieces of the puzzle are in play. And so it's not like 5G is going to go away, and there's no need to panic about this. However, it would be advised, it is a smart idea that we could actually just be aware. And really, if you think about it, how much would your life be ruined? Really, how much would your life be ruined if you actually went and, sat down at the computer that was hardwired to check your Facebook instead of checking it every 10 seconds on your phone? Because every time you're sending and receiving from your telephone, you are allowing that EMF into your realm. It's funny, with this 5G push, I work on the phone a ton to deliver spiritual message and do readings. And I don't use a Bluetooth headset. I use a hardwired, plug it into the iPhone headset, and I hold my phone. Well, I am actually probably going to be getting a landline with a regular radio transmitted, just regular old radio transmitted handset that I can plug my headset into. Because as these speeds get faster, I'm holding my telephone as I'm speaking to people, but I'm holding it chest level. Well, that's right where my mammaries are. I don't want to be getting breast cancer. I sometimes I hold it down by my side. That's right where my reproductive system is. I don't need to be getting cervical or ovarian cancer. So, I've been thinking about this, and I'm holding it in my hand all the time. And I tend to hold my phone in my left hand, which is kind of a weird thing. I don't know why I do that. Yet my left hand, the left side of the body, is where we absorb all the energy and we put it out on the right side. So I've been sitting here, thank God, asking my angels, saying, okay, have I just been poisoning the crap out of myself as we've got these tower strengths that have arisen? And I think I'm okay, but I think I'm right on the line as far as needing to make a change. Because once this technology boosts and we go to a 5G signal and everything is just pumping out on those 5G towers, then my phone is going to want to catch everything in 5G. And I just don't want that. I don't want that around me. Now I'm going to actually have to carry a cell phone because we do live in an interconnected world. Yet I can go back to a landline and just have a radio transmitter handheld receiver like back in the old days and plug my headset into that, and we're going to be just fine. And then I won't drop as many calls when I'm doing readings, because it's interesting when you have these angelic beings around you. Man, their energy is huge. You want to talk about some electromagnetic interference, and here's what's fascinating. The resonation in the angelic realm is so high that it actually disturbs the 5G millimeter network. So I'm going to have to do something to do readings for people over the phone, because as people's angels come in, it's going to interfere with the oscillation of that particular wavelength, which again, I just think it's so fascinating in my world, because I'm also a pastor, I'm a reverend, and I believe that there's no separation between Mother, Father, God, science, the mystical, the physics and psychic. Think about how the word physics and psychic are so closely spelled, and they're both weird. Physic and psychic are only one letter off from one another. So the physics or the spiritual physics of metaphysics of psychic are the same physics that we're dealing with in science. And, there are so many beautiful teachers in the metaphysical field, and they range from super woo-woo and all is love and all is good and all is peace, and I completely agree with all of that, all the way down to conspiratists, dig a hole in your backyard, get a can of beans, bury yourself for the next 12 years because it's all going to hell. Well, I don't believe any of it's going to hell. I believe that we have a massive opportunity to change consciousness and change how we interact with our tech. And that will change the demand for the tech. Now, unfortunately, 5G is going to be here to stay because of the military issues. Yet in a few years, here's a little psychic work for you. In a few years, what we're going to be seeing is people picketing towers, asking them to be removed, asking them to step down to 4G again, and to bunch the 5G towers for the military applications away from people. Now, this is kind of going to suck because they're going to come out here in my backyard in Yellowstone Park and erect a bunch of 5G towers, but they're going to try to put them away from most of the people on the tops of mountains, in rural areas, to be able to run the satellite networks. So that's where we're heading. That's going to come out of a lot of mainstream news, cancer reports, little kids getting sick. This is just going to get stupid, gang, because not enough people are paying attention. Or we can change that timeline by telling everybody that you know about the 5G issues and not trying to scare people. Again, this isn't apocalyptic, oh my God, yet until we figure out how to use the quantum field to negate the things like dirty water and poisoning our atmosphere. And I always like to say the third dimension has been bought and paid for by sociopathic money. Okay. So it's up to us that interact with the third dimension to go into that quantum field and raise the vibration in certain ways. And I am beginning to teach workshops all over the place about how actually to use the quantum field. Okay, so I've got some workshops coming to you soon. I'm in the planning period of that right now. Yet I am so passionate about teaching everybody how to get out there and use the quantum field. And hey, whether you learn this from me, whether you learn it from Einstein, Good gravy. I have no personal preference where you learn it from. Yet understanding how to plug in and utilize the fabric of the universe is massive in ridding our body of cancers, in repelling 5G waves. We can do this energetically because remember, 5G network is just millimeter. That's just millimeter radiation waves, and everything's a vibration. So my passion right now is to go not only here in Montana, but we're scheduling around the country workshops where literally people, and we're going to do exercises and teach people how to access the quantum field. Now, it's going to be an introductory to your Jedi Knight powers, and y'all are going to have to practice this on your own. However, tapping into that quantum field is what we do to bring in prosperity, to bring in health, to change the vibration of water. It's what Jesus did in transfiguration from water to wine. It's what the Buddhas did in order to purify food, okay? So this is not that again, it's very important that I say this. It's not that I'm some superhero that can do something that you can't do. It's more like I figured out how to snap that weird Tupperware lid that doesn't fit onto anything onto the Tupperware, finally. And I just want to share it with you. And really, gang, when we talk about spiritual transfiguration, that's why we're here. We are in the ascension time frame, okay? So to wrap this up with a little metaphysics, we can handle the 5G issue if we, A, don't participate with the network unless we absolutely have to. Plug your computers in. No, you don't have to be on your phone 24/7. What a novel concept to be able to go to your computer that's hardwired if you want to check Facebook or social media. I understand Instagram only works on your phone, so maybe doing that at a limited rate and trying to don't buy a 5G device. Honest to God, I am not planning on buying a 5G device. I don't need 5G in my house. 4G is just fine, and it already is causing problems. So just understand that the quantum field, being able to manifest, being able to obviously take social action, and write to our government, that's not going to do much good, but it can make us feel better. And we do put that energy out into the third dimension when we do write letters or protest or make calls, and our Congress will feel that. Yet we have some old dogs in the Senate, gang. I'm not going to name names, but you know who they all are. We've got some old dogs in the Senate that are bought and paid for through and through, and they have lived out a life lesson and a life purpose to be the foil in the story. So that's been their purpose. So whenever you want to look at certain senators and spit at their general direction, I understand that they've been serving a purpose in our growth. And for us to just stay mad and blame-oriented is not going to solve anything. So now that we know what's going on with 5G, that the multiple health catastrophes that are going on out there, like Parkinson's, autism, Alzheimer's disease, cancer, you name it, are fueled on by this millimeter wave contamination or EMF poisoning, I want to leave you with this particular quote because sometimes it's just nice to hear somebody speak some sense in the middle of just the nothing to see here, emperor's new clothes, sociopathic, oligarchical government system, okay? So I'm going to read this to you. Martin L. Paul, PhD and Professor Emeritus of Biochemistry and Basic Medical Sciences at Washington State University, recently outlined in a new report the many health risks associated with 5G technology and wireless radiation in general. Now, I think this is fantastic. Now, he presented during the Health in Buildings Roundtable that was sponsored by the NIH and co-organized by the US CDC and several other organizations, where literally Dr. Paul concluded that the 5G rollout is absolutely insane. And here is a quote, which I think is interesting, from Dr. Sharon Goldberg of internal medicine physician's testimony at Michigan's small cell tower hearing. Okay, so get this. She says, which again is really an incredible quote, "Wireless radiation has biological effects, period. This is no longer a subject for debate when you look at PubMed and the peer-reviewed literature. These effects are seen in all life forms, plants, animals, insects, microbes. In humans, we have a clear evidence of cancer now." And this is from millimeter wave contamination. We have clear evidence of cancer now. There is no question. We have evidence of DNA damage, cardiomyopathy, which is the precursor of congestive heart failure, neuropsychiatric effects, like, gang, that's hallucinations and all kinds of things. 5G is an untested application of a technology that we know is harmful. We know it from the science. In academics, this is called human subjects research. And that's coming from Dr. Sharon Goldberg, again, the internal medicine physician's testimony at Michigan Small Cell Tower hearing. And, what I think is fascinating. In the report by Dr. Martin Paul above, where he said the 5G rollout is absolutely insane, I think it's interesting. He also stated super bluntly that, and this is a quote, putting in tens of millions of 5G antenna without a single biological test of safety has got to be about the stupidest idea anyone has had in the history of the world. So there you go. So let's not combat stupid with fear. Let's not combat stupid with hysteria or end of the world mentality or catastrophic thinking. Let us combat stupid with educated, okay? And let us work with this quantum field. Let us see what we can do to protect ourselves, our children, our animals, our earth. We can change this, gang. It is within our capability. Because why? Because our cells, as we now know, conduct electromagnetic energy. We now know, thanks to Israeli studies, that the sweat glands in the body act as huge EMF antenna. So what does that mean? It means we don't just have to be a sponge. We can also be a broadcast tower. 8 billion of us in that planar array hitting the quantum field. I talk about this all the time. So for those of you in Montana, okay, for those of you in Montana, now I got to wrap this up. I've got an engineer looking at me like, you are so over time. I know. Hold on. For those of you in Montana, on Saturday, March 16th, from 1 to 3:30, I'm going to be at Barjan's, a spiritual center and bookstore in Billings, Montana, and I'm going to be launching these forums and collective exercises and workshops. It's called Tapping into the Quantum Field for Ultimate Prosperity. Yet it's ultimate prosperity is not just about money. It's about health. It's about wellness. It's about changing our water. It's about changing our life. It's about changing everything. You guys, if you're in the Montana area, this is in Billings, Montana, again on Saturday, March 16th. I'm going to kick off this quantum field education study there. Good old Billings. So make sure you sign up, gang. You can get there online at my website, Danielle Egnew, EGNEW-advisor.com/events. Make sure you sign up. The seating is going to be limited, gang. So we want to make sure to have enough seats for people. And seats aren't guaranteed, just like all the rest of the events that I do. They're really not guaranteed unless you purchase in advance. That way we can make sure you have a chair. It's like going to a wedding. You can show up, but you might need to bring your chair and a sandwich. So that gets bummer. Anyway, gang, like I said, get online, read about this, read about what you can do about the 5G dangers. It's not fake news, it's real news, yet we have the power, all 8 billion of us almost together as the planar array of ultimate manifestation to heal our planet, to heal our frequency airwaves, to combat the sociopathic application of harmful devices on our earth. Because the light in all of us, the Mother, Father, God in all of us, the love in all of us is a heck of a lot more powerful than a lousy 5G signal. Thanks for hanging in there with me, even though we're a bit over time today. And I will see you next week.